Celiac disease is an autoimmune disease that targets the intestines and renders them unable to properly handle foodstuff. The condition leads to a wide range of clinical manifestations of variable severity. So, sometime in the summer of 2017, I was working overnight at a warehouse. I remember getting to the warehouse and doing things I normally do. Before the shift started, I had a cup of coffee. Can't remember how much time lapsed, but what I do remember, I had the worst anxiety attack I've ever had, and probably one of the onlyest anxiety attacks that I can recall. My body started to tingle severely. I remember leaving work, calling my wife, and explaining to her what I was feeling, and asking her to meet me somewhere. So I'm speeding. I'm actually running red lights. I'm in a neighborhood that you shouldn't do that in. And I sped all the way in a hoopty. It was like maybe a 40-minute drive to get to the crib. It's getting so bad that I asked my wife to meet me in the Kroger parking lot. So she meets me there. By the time I got there, I was a wreck. Everything felt like my entire upper body felt like it was going completely numb. So like my arms, like my left arm, one of my arms felt completely numb. The other one felt like it was on its way. And it wasn't until she got there and I sat in the car with her and laid back and just sat there, hyperventilating, doing my best to keep myself calm and waiting until I calmed down completely, and got a hold of the rhythm of my breathing, that I started to feel the tingling wear off. So that was my first experience of having anxiety, and also I think the beginning of this journey. There were a couple of times throughout the years when I started to see these symptoms, I had to get on my knees and lean over in order for me to breathe. That was scary. Then there was this one time where we ordered food from this place, from this Indian place, and they use curry, they use different spices, and I had ordered cabbage and I believe something called kalalu. I believe that's what it was called. Here I am again having this breathing episode, where I felt like I had a mass in my chest, in my diaphragm, and it really felt very difficult to breathe. Then one day my in-laws was coming to town, and I remember being on lunch, going to the park. I went to the park to go for a jog. I started to jog, and my vision just fell off. Everything just started to feel off. That's the only way I can explain it. It was like I could tell that something wasn't right. It wasn't really the same breathing issue per se. It wasn't as intense, but I definitely felt like something was making my vision and my breathing both feel off. And so I immediately stopped. I went back home and I stayed there. Well, that night it got worse, never got any better. And eventually I did end up going to the emergency room. They ended up checking my heart rate and seeing that it was elevated. They took so long to check me in, I left. It's been some time now, but now I've finally gone to the doctor. Get to the doctor, I tell him about my stomach and how it really felt like, a bloated feeling, but it felt like it was impacting my breathing, so I'm having shallow breathing. My wife told me, on numerous occasions, it felt like my heart was beating fast. I'm just not feeling like myself. I didn't have any pain, but I definitely had shallow breathing. And when they checked my vitals, my blood pressure was high. So this is when she decided to have me do a blood panel. And when I did the blood panel, it said a lot. The one thing that stuck out, aside from the blood pressure, she saw that the sugar in my blood was high and that I was essentially a pre-diabetic. Also, the level of gluten in my system was very high as well. And that stuck out to me. So when she said that, after I had my doctor's appointment, I decided to look more into gluten. And then when I finally started to read about gluten, that's when it all started to make sense to me. The reason why I don't claim to have celiac disease is because I've read articles and watched videos that suggest that the only way to confirm you have celiac is to have a biopsy or to do more than the blood test that I did. And because I haven't had any additional blood tests, I just pretty much assume that I have it, because I said to myself, with the symptoms that I do have And with what was sought in the original blood panel, this tells me that it's safe to assume that I probably do have it, and I'm just going to live my life like I do. Since that doctor's visit, there have been other things that have occurred that convinced me more clearly that I do actually have it, and I'm going to go into that in a different video. But high blood pressure, the pre-diabetes, honestly, I didn't think that it had anything to do with gluten being in my system until after that doctor's appointment, until after I tested different foods, removed different foods from my diet, and seen the difference that it made. The reason I'm doing this is to document my journey, speak more to having gluten sensitivity, and help somebody who might be going through the same thing. And if this video helped you, please consider subscribing so that we can get through this together.